G'day. Plenty of fans at last year's Canadian Grand Prix were none too happy. Will they be any happier this year? Let's find out. Let's go back to Friday last year, 2024 GP. Thousands of fans turned away at the gate because of a miscommunication. People were told on the bridge waiting to get in that FP1 and 2 weren't going ahead because of weather. Even further away, people in subway stations waiting to get on trains with tickets were told by the police, don't go, it's cancelled. But the sessions were not cancelled, they ran as normal. A lot of people very angry that they'd missed out on one, maybe both sessions for the day, having paid big money for it. Well, this year, circuit organisers are saying they're going to have one central point of command when it comes to communications. No one will be able to give that advice unless it comes from the very top. Hopefully that works. On race day, a whole host of people had set up on the main straight with a great spot to view cars whizzing past. These were general admission ticket holders. And close to the start of the race, organisers decided to go and put up black mesh over the fence, denying them any view. They've been waiting there for hours and they were ropeable. This year, I understand, those decisions will be made well earlier than race day. Last year, the organiser copped a fair hiding from fans about the state of the toilets. I found some stuff on Reddit that was damning. Toilets filling up and overflowing by Saturday, no toilet paper, no water in some of them, and people being urged to bring their own hand sanitizer. Will that be the same again this year? I hope not, for your sake out there in those general public areas, but I'm very keen to see your comments post-race weekend as to whether or not things have improved. But just come across 6 rather magnificent toilet suites here, but this is behind a corporate facility. Quebec's tourism minister last year said that she was embarrassed by the goings-on at that event, and considering it draws some 300,000 fans and brings in about 162 million Canadian dollars to the economy, the organisers need to get this right. Now, one thing I have picked up on here early is that there is an app in place for fans to use. I imagine that app will be the main source of information so that you don't have police firing off wrong things, you don't have people at gates firing off wrong information. Whether or not people will use the app remains to be seen, but I think that's probably a good step forward. And while there were plenty of angry fans at the track, here in the city, there were angry restaurateurs and patrons.
Last year, unfortunately, we have the tent, the terrace, too close to the Alexander, It was 1 feet too close. Then the fire department came over and they say, over, everybody have to get out.
Leaving them with no time to fix a situation and costing them tens of thousands of dollars. Plus, there were fewer dining options for all those F1 fans.
But this year is going to be okay because they came to us, they put some mark on the floor and they said this is where the tent of your beautiful terrace have to stop. So now this year is going to be beautiful.
And what do the locals think of this race?
They love the race. Big week. Obviously, Formula One. It's part of the Montreal's culture here.
Oh, and I've just done a signed print collaboration with Fernando Alonso. You can find those at the shop at kimillman.com. What about drivers having to park and walk through muddy car parks? Well, that too is going to change. Instead of parking across the river on the grass, in fact, they put some fake grass down there over the last 2 years to make it a bit nicer. But still, when that rain hits, and it did hit heavy last year, even hail in the paddock, it causes some drama, but not this year. Where is that new driver's car park? At one end of the rowing lake in a brand new parking facility. Now that would be easily 300 metres from these swipe gates. Well, that will become swipe gates behind me. So I'd be very surprised if the drivers weren't dropped off right here and then the trainers or the security guys went and parked the cars and walked back. Of course, a lot has changed with the driver lineup since 2024. This was a post I put up on Instagram the other day. You won't see any of this year. Lewis, Carlos, Esteban, Yuki and Nico in different team outfits. And we have no Kevin Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, Daniel Ricciardo, Sergio Perez, Valtteri Bottas or Logan Sargent. But what we do have, and is new and exciting for those in the paddock, are these magnificent new hospitality suites. This is what we had last year, not a patch on these. In fact, these remind me a little bit of the Singapore GP hospitality suites, which is certainly more substantial than the ones we have in Japan, which, like these, are brought in just for the events. Here's another big change. There is now no longer a floating bridge that goes across the water. That's how all the drivers used to get from their cars, which they parked on the other side here of the rowing lake, to the paddock. There was an elevated walkway that went over a lane for the small boats to go under, and then they continue on via bridge to the paddock swipe gates. That is no more. Down here in the paddock there are plenty of containers with lots of gear for the teams stored in them. Now these haven't come by air, these are sea freight, and they will typically leapfrog. So this one here may have come from a track 3 or 4 races ago. And it's fair to say that this container behind me will be packed up post-race and will be sent sea freight to another track, probably one in 3 or 4 races' time. Canada's national sport is hockey. Well, we'd say ice hockey because there's also field hockey, but this, I imagine, will be some fun activities for the drivers come especially Media Day, which is the Thursday prior to the race weekend. And this is set up right in the heart of the paddock. Now, local favourite Lance Stroll is a fair hockey player, I believe. But will he be racing in the Canadian Grand Prix this year? Well, his name and likeness are on top of the Aston Martin hospitality suite, but you'll remember in Barcelona he pulled out of the race, citing an injury that was caused back in 2023. But since I did my video early on the Monday morning after the race, news has come out that he may well have hurt it hitting something in the garage after qualifying. But either way, the team confirms that he's having some medical treatment for that injury, but it remains to be seen whether or not he will be fit enough to control an F1 car around this circuit. If not, it could be Felipe Drugovich stepping in if he's happy to drop Le Mans. Stoffel Van Dorn is the other driver for Aston Martin, but he too is listed as driving in Le Mans. And then there's also been talk of Valtteri Bottas taking that seat if needed. I spoke to Valtteri at the track on Sunday last race, and he said he's ready, keen as mustard to step in. But he has a 5-place grid penalty that has to be served at his next race. Would Aston Martin want that? The F1 track is built on a man-made island and there's only one bridge to go over and back, so traffic during the Grand Prix weekend is crazy. So you're better off using public transport. But the transport workers have got an 8-day strike that starts the Monday before the race. However, they said they won't be striking over the Grand Prix weekend, but that's only the 13th to the 15th. It doesn't include Media Day.
But they have previously made promises that they haven't fulfilled. So I hope they're good to their word this time.
And if you don't have a car and you don't want to take public transport, you can always ride a bicycle. There are plenty of them around. But just be aware, in the city there's quite a lot of construction work going on the roads, which over a Grand Prix weekend adds some difficulty to your trips. This, my friends, is the Wall of Champions, so named because so many F1 world champions have come to grief here. See this open window here? We can shoot through there, and sometimes we're less than 40 centimetres from the cars, although typically they don't get this close. If they're out here next to this fence, they're really pushing hard and they probably shouldn't be there. More often than not, they have their wheel here just on the curbing. Now I'm out here at the track well before Formula One takes over, so it's still in its formative stages. Behind these doors are just empty spaces that in a week or so will be filled with the team's gear. So in short, a lot of the drama last year was brought about by rain. However, the 10-day forecast suggests that there'll be no rain over the 3 days of on-track action. But of course, things can change. Now, before you go, could you please hit the like button and subscribe for those unsubscribed? Most grateful to. And for a whole lot of extras, head across and have a look here. Thanks for watching.
And stay passionate.
2, 3, 4, 5 races.